Hey, STAR students, welcome back to the Astro Study Room. I'm Ember Faye, your friendly neighborhood fire fairy witch.
And I'm Jordan, a university librarian by day and a dedicated astrology student by night. And yes, welcome back to the Astro Study Room.
Our goal for this podcast is to feel like a group of badass students of all levels gathering to explore, reflect, question, and connect with the cosmos. No matter where you're at in your astrology or spiritual journey, learning's a forever game, growth is cyclical, and curiosity is sacred. And we are so happy you're here to wander around the universe with us. So if you'd like, grab your notes, pens, highlighters, or just bring yourself and an open mind, especially today as we jump into Gemini.
All about the mind. Whether you identify as an astrologer, a witch, wizard, a mystic, a spiritual seeker, or simply a curious human, you belong here. This is a study room for everyone and for all of it. Every other Tuesday, we will be exploring different astrology and spiritual topics, sometimes teaching, sometimes reflecting, and sometimes just chatting and wondering out loud together. If you're into it, we'd love for you to subscribe, leave a review, and just know you can always come hang out with us in the study room.
Yes, you can follow us at the Astro Study Room on Instagram and TikTok. And of course, as you know by now, we are live on YouTube. Hello, my YouTube friends. So if you're more of a visual person, you can check us out right on there.
And don't forget about our Patreon, which is currently free, and we're still figuring out the best ways for us to utilize it, but signing up now will make sure you are the first to get any of our study guides and the fun tools we put out. And as you may know by now, we do have our donation tiers on Patreon, and if you feel so called to, we would be honored to have your support. These are fun and affordable donation tiers to help you stay connected and support the magic behind the mic. But as always, no pressure at all, since we are here to make this content as accessible as we can to our listeners. All the links are in the show notes.
Jordan, how can people get an incredible astrology reading with you?
I do natal chart and solar return consultations where we can talk about what your soul intends for you for this lifetime, and I also offer cosmic check-ins where we can talk about any current transits going on, or if you want any dedicated time to ask any specific questions about your chart or certain placements or transits happening. What about you, Ember?
I'm on Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube under Ember Faye Magic, and you can sign up for my newsletter or take my free quiz on discovering your central shadow archetype. And speaking of the quiz, I have some incredible archetype workbooks that I've created to help you dive deeper into those shadows. So if you haven't taken the quiz yet, I highly recommend, and it will be linked in the show notes or on my socials.
Yay, that is awesome. So today we are continuing with our series along the zodiac. Today we're going to be talking about Gemini, which I'm very excited about. Ember, we've talked about this. This is an important part in both of our charts, which we will get into, I guess, when we start talking about Gemini.
And we are ready. We are here for it. Get your minds ready, and communication will be flowing today, my friends. So buckle up, STAR students. Class is officially out and the study room is in session.
Tell us about the full moon that's coming up.
Yes, we have a gorgeous blue moon coming up at the end of May. This will be the second full moon happening this month on May 31st at 4:45 a.m. Or for me, it will be 11:45 a.m. because I will be in Greece, which I know. How appropriate is that for like a full
I know.
moon? Serious. I always see Sag as this like optimist and adventurer and the one that's like seeking and searching for things, like an explorer. So I think this is a moon about maybe like freedom from like thinking things about yourself and being able to explore that, like taking those things that the universe has told you or beliefs and stories that you've made about yourself, because Sagittarius is very much like about beliefs, and being able to decide if those beliefs are truly yours, if they're things that the society has put on you or other people have put on you, and decide if you want to like hold on to that or if you want to let it go. And if you do want to hold on to that, this would be such a good time to expand the crap out of that belief. Or it could be a time to release it and look at something new. So I think you can use this full moon to journal on whether or not these beliefs what are these beliefs, whether or not they are yours or not, and decide like what to do with them. And if you finish up and you're writing and you're like, ooh, I gotta let some of this go, you can always burn the crap out of it. You could bury it. When you burn things, burn them safely. Also, I guess if you are looking to expand, pull in that full moon energy, pull in that full moon energy and go for it. And if like journaling is not your thing, then just do something that makes you feel happy and free and live, laugh, love vibes. So like it could be just dancing, singing, being under the full moon, go for a walk in nature, let that like fiery energy move through you.
There's so much interesting things to go in there. So it's very like prevalent probably for everyone, but also like I'm constantly thinking about what I do and don't believe. And I'm not going to go too far into this, but I recently saw a TikTok that like sent me in a little bit of like a belief crisis of like, man, what do I believe in? Like what do I like after some time in this spiritual journey, what do I still just like not believe? And that's something I've been thinking about even more. And then thinking about like bringing this to all of your own charts. The dispositor for this full moon is Jupiter, who is exalted in Cancer, which we love to see, and Venus is also there, which we really love to see. So think about where you have Cancer, and also thinking about where you have the Gemini Sagittarius axis, and looking at that house axis in your chart too.
Yeah. We are going through the zodiac sign, we just want to share this reminder that although you might not be a Gemini sun, you may not be a Gemini moon, you may not have Gemini prominently in your chart at all, but just remember that all of the signs are in our charts. They occupy the houses and they are something you can look to. You can look to the house, see what sign it's in, and be able to divinate, extract information from that always. So all of these zodiac deep dives we are doing is applicable for everyone.
We're very excited to talk about Gemini today because Ember and I both have some very prominent Gemini placements, and it's really interesting that we started this podcast together, which is a very Gemini activity. But also, I have my sun and my chart ruler in Gemini, and Ember has her moon and her chart ruler in Gemini, which is just a very interesting synchronicity that we have here.
Such a special episode.
Yeah, I know. We're going to learn a lot about ourselves in this one. I'm excited to see what comes up here. And to remind you all, too, the difference between a planet in your chart versus a sign. So the planets, in a traditional way, we see them as they are the gods, they are the deities. They are the ones that are making things happen. They are the actors, they are the characters. The signs are the clothes you're wearing, or the archetype, or a little bit of the personality. They're not the ones creating the actions. It's the planets that create the actions. That's how I work with them, but of course, go with your own flow.
I think we should start by talking up like what makes up Gemini.
Yeah, so Gemini... Oh, did you hear my shoulder crack?
I kind of did.
Okay. So Gemini is a masculine, mutable air sign ruled by Mercury. Before I break more of that down, Ember, tell me what you know about Gemini. What's your current impression of Gemini? I imagine you probably know some more than nothing about this one, considering it's so prominent in your chart. But I want to hear what you know.
I do. I feel like I used to, before I knew what my moon sign was, like I didn't really, like I always thought of Gemini as that very classic twins energy of having two people in one body, so like two different personalities. And I do think that can be true. It sounds like you have like two people. I don't know. For me, it feels like I have the devil and the angel on my shoulder always. I also think that struggle represents itself by kind of like the safety of being able to show like your inner world to the outer world kind of thing. Like that constantly feels like this battle of just pulling and pushing back and forth between this is a safe space and I can show this part of me, I'm out in the real world, and this is the other part of me, but they're both still me. It's just that, especially I think Gemini being my moon kind of...
I was like, this is very moon activity happening, yeah.
Yeah, and I think it's amplified by the fact that it's Gemini. Mm-hmm. And that it's really, right, like we can think of Hermes because Hermes is the deity that is like the messenger. That's the Greek form of Mercury, the Roman god of the messenger. And so Hermes is all about being able to jump back and forth between different layers of reality. And that can be kind of how my brain feels sometimes. It's just that passage between like the liminal, right? Something that we talked about in our Mercury episode a lot, which would be a great one to listen to after you're done listening to this episode. So I wanted to pause it. What do you think, Jordan, about that so far?
We were probably going to talk about this later, but I'm going to jump into it now because you talked about like, the two different sides, but they're both still you. And so a big like one of the stereotypes of Gemini is someone who is two-faced. And I definitely have like the opinion. So another stereotype, another keyword, I guess, is that Gemini is a chameleon and can kind of blend in with anybody. And I think it's more like, I don't think there's a two-face aspect. I think it's more of like the chameleon of like, these are all still what make up Gemini. It's like, it's not being faked, I guess. Like there's no part that's being faked. It's not two-faced. This person just generally is a varied person, I guess.
I agree. And I think they can like, I think a Gemini can really switch opinions, pretty quickly based on facts, based on like the conversation. I mean, that happens all the time where I'm just like talking out loud and all of a sudden, somebody brings something else. Like I'm very like, this is what I think, this is what I believe. And then somebody brings something else and I'm like, oh, that makes sense too. So like,
Gemini is very open to having their mind changed when they get new information. Yeah.
yeah, which makes so much sense, I guess, with it being mutable. And so I also think of Gemini as this like very chatty air sign that's always questioning things. And I think it's always, a lot of times it's questioning it out loud, right? Like it's their perceptions, the people around them. And I think this is where my own ADHD is like a really good representation of Gemini, where it's hard to pay attention to anything because I am constantly paying attention to everything. And that's really freaking hard. I think Geminis are also very open, kind of like what we were just saying, to hearing other people's ideas and love the mental stimulation. So that like really good debate or the the witty banter. Be still my heart. Like I love good witty banter. I don't know, it makes them, it's like they're easy to just shift in and out and fit in with others. So I guess I could see how that's two-faced in, well, I guess I could see why people would take that as being two-faced, right? But I genuinely think a Gemini would have a hard time being like, okay, I'm in this friend group hates this friend group, but I want to be friends with both of them because I find them both very interesting in these different ways. And like, I don't know, but being convinced that the other friend group sucks and then going back to the other friend group and being like, wow, no, maybe they're the ones that suck, you know? And so like, I don't know.
Do you like debating?
I think so. I
Okay.
don't know. I have to, you know what? It comes back to my moon. I have to feel safe and
Well, that's what
comfortable
I
with.
was wondering because you were talking about like Gemini loves a good debate, and I like talking about the planets that we have in Gemini. I have Sun and Mars, and you have Moon and Venus, and I definitely think I would associate Sun and Mars in Gemini as like the stand up, look at me, talk about my intellect, see how smart I am, and I will argue you to death. Whereas I see the Venus and the Moon, like yes, like you need to know the people that you're debating with, you need to feel safe with them, and also more of like you're like I feel like Moon and Venus is definitely more that energy of like I want to talk about this, but like like don't hate me, like I this is all gonna be like fun and great, and I'm like let's talk about it. I don't
I
care how you feel
know.
about me at the end of this.
No, I think I definitely will like say my things and be like, this is it, this is me. Like, and not like don't hate me vibes, but it's definitely like, I think if it's not in a place like debating, the idea of going and debating in like a room with a bunch of people makes me want to die. So it definitely was somebody I care about to be able to have those stimulating intellectual conversations and go back and forth with them about an idea makes me out tingling inside.
Oh, you know what? That's how you and I became friends in the first place. Um,
Oh,
which yeah, that's really
yeah.
interesting. So the first time Ember and I had like a really like in-depth conversation, it went on for like 4 hours, and I was like just starting chart readings, and I was like doing them for free for some friends, and we were in a container together, and so I was like, oh, who wants like a 30-minute free reading for me to practice? And so we were on Zoom together doing this reading, and then it turned into a 4 hour conversation where we like really like dug into, so it had to do with like you being a vet and me being a vegan at the time, and talking about animal welfare and animal rights as two people who care about animals a lot, but had different opinions and like experiences and knowledge on animal welfare. And it was a really like spirited is not actually the word I want to use, but it was a lively debate, and it was an emotional debate, and it was like I don't know, I feel like we both came at it as well as you can to a debate, and then we like were really close friends immediately after that. And
That is
very
so,
Gemini.
yeah. Oh my goch, that makes me so happy. Like,
I know, because yeah, because you had just said it makes me all tingly to talk about the things I really care about, and that was exactly what that conversation was.
it was, and no joke, it did last 4 hours.
Yeah.
Like I remember telling my partner, like, "Oh yeah, we'll be down there. I'll be down there for like a half hour." I think I said like maybe an hour, and then I came up, and he was like, "Are you okay?" And I was like, "Yeah, I just had the best conversation."
That was a good time. Another thing I want to talk about is, of course, like the seasons with Gemini. So if you're in the northern hemisphere, we are now at the part where spring is changing into summer. And if you're in the southern hemisphere, this is when fall is changing into winter. So this is one of the mutable signs, which is why we're talking about the seasons changing. Mutable is all about change. And to bring it back to the start of our zodiac, we have Aries, which is like the burst of life. I still like that imagery of the like breaking the crust of the earth so something can grow later. And then Taurus is the sustaining of that life. So Taurus is the one that's like farming that plant. And Gemini is the one that is becoming aware of the other and becoming aware of the environment and just starting to ask some questions. It's not deep dives yet, but it's just starting to be like, okay, I've started this thing, I've maintained it. What now? That kind of question. What else is
Oh,
there kind of question.
like I like that, like pretty superficial, like
Hmm.
starting to think about, like,
Just very curious.
curious.
Yeah.
I love it. Look, curious kitty Gemini.
To bring it back, so Gemini is again the masculine. So it's an outward expression. It is mutable about change, and it's an air sign, which is kind of like your intellect, social sign, your intellect, social element, and it's ruled by Mercury. So Mercury is in domicile here in Gemini. Mercury is the student, much like Gemini is, and Virgo as well. We'll get to Virgo in a little bit. And Jupiter has its detriment here in Gemini. So it's interesting because Jupiter is the planet who is more asking like the really big questions. Again, all about belief, like those big questions of like what is after death? Who is God? Like these really big questions that can't just be answered in a couple sentences. Whereas Gemini and Mercury are a little bit more of the Gemini is a little bit more of like the what did I think about this book? What did I learn from this class today? And more of the smaller things, whereas Jupiter has those big overarching questions.
Like philosophy.
Philosophy, yeah, that's a good
Yeah.
one.
I think of Jupiter as more philosophical, but I don't necessarily think Gemini as philosophical.
No, Gemini, that's another big thing. Gemini wants the answer. Gemini wants the facts, the truth, the yes or no. Jupiter is more okay with like, this question's not going to have a straight up answer.
I hate that.
Me too. I hate that.
All right, Jordan. So we've talked a lot. I kind of gave you my thoughts on Gemini, but like, what are the actual keywords? Like, what are we writing down on our index cards?
Yeah, get out your pens and your index cards. So I'm just going to kind of start throwing some out. There's quite a few. So we've got adaptable, alert, analytical, busy, charming, chatty, clever, curious. I wrote down so many for this one. Conversational, diversified, dynamic, fluctuating, debater, extrovert, inquisitive, intelligent, observant. I didn't have like a word for this, but another really interesting thing about Gemini is people kind of say Gemini is really good at learning languages. And I think that's interesting because my undergrad degree was in another language. So that's a fun little fact.
Just because they're like, I guess it's communication and learning.
Yeah, I think because it's communication, it's learning, and it's connecting with the other, which is
Oh,
language.
that makes
Yeah.
sense.
Which this is a whole interesting conversation that we're not gonna like. Well, maybe we will go into it. Venus is all about relationships and the connection with others, but Mercury is really the one that allows us to connect with others. Without word, without language, without Mercury as the one in between, there is no connection. And Venus is our relationships, but there is no relationship without Mercury.
Interesting. I have to sit with that.
Yeah, that's fair. I sat with
Because
it for a while,
because
so.
I would argue that like there was a time before written language and like
But like
what would that
spoken language?
what?
What about spoken language? Or are you saying?
I mean both,
Yeah,
right?
I mean, I don't know. So I actually have been researching prehistory quite a bit. It's been like a recent interest of mine, and I've been going into this is also one of those things that set me down on like what do I even believe? But I've been researching like human evolution and what humans were like before, like human species before modern humans. And so like language was not as developed as today, but there were definitely ways of communicating with each other. Yeah, I don't think you can form a relationship without yeah, you have to communicate. Like relationships started because it was like I mean to boil it down a lot, essentially like a I'll scratch your back, you scratch mine thing. Like it was like we will stick together and we will help each other with our strengths and our weaknesses.
Yeah.
And you can't do that if you weren't even if it's not with words, you were communicating.
Yeah, no, that makes sense.
Yeah.
That makes sense. I'm no, yeah, I'm just like thinking.
That's what this episode's about. That's what the cards were about. So what the Palace Athena says, it says think on it.
Think on it. This like connection between Mercury and Venus. Where does Mars come in?
Come into what? What do you mean?
I don't know. Like, I feel like we're going down this path, right? And I think there's a lot of cyclical things when we're talking about these connections. And so when we're basing these things off of like, we're talking about relationships, right? And that like Venus is the relationship. Then you have Mercury, which is like what creates that relationship. Where does Mars come into that? Because I feel like it does.
So in the terms of a relationship, the first thing I think of is like the defender.
Is Mars like the action behind it? It's actually like forming and maintaining those bonds?
I would still look at Venus for that. Like I think that is what Venus is. It's the forming and the maintaining and the losing.
Mars is fucking.
I was waiting for like sex to come up in this.
Not my fault.
I would have to think on it a little bit more on where Mars comes into that. What's interesting going down this pathway is that traditionally Mars is kind of just a bad planet and Venus is just a good planet. And Mercury is either seen as neutral or you look at specifically at where Mercury is in your chart and you determine if it's rising or setting and blah 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 blah. But generally Mercury is more neutral. With that lens, it's a totally different conversation. With the modern lens, like yeah, I think Mars would be about the
I
intimacy.
also hate things black and white. So,
I think Mars would be the intimacy, the arguing, the yeah, like the passionate conversation. Even then, like, but the thing I feel like even saying that, I would look at Mars, like maybe Mars and Gemini. I would say like that's passionate, someone who conversates passionately. Beyond that, I would also look at like how is Mars interacting with Mercury, and if not at all, I wouldn't associate Mars in this way as
okay.
passionate communication.
All right. That was a weird side reel. But
No,
we're
this is
in
what
the
Gemini is. Yeah,
we're in the
we're
weird
thinking out loud together. We're like coming up with ideas in the live is what I was thinking.
in the live.
Yeah.
Okay, so with all those keywords, then what is like the roles of Gemini? Like what are those classic representations or archetypes?
Gemini is the student. I think that's the biggest one people think of. Gemini is the jester or like the comedian, more modernly.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Are we funny?
I think so.
Are we funny,
I think
Jordan?
I'm hilarious. Gemini is also another one is like the manipulator,
The shapeshifter.
shapeshifter, the communicator, the conversationalist.
Yeah, that sounds good to me.
Solid.
Solid. We did it. The student. So the student versus like Virgo being a student.
So this is something I have like I guess like my own opinions on. It's not something that I'm like backing with anything. But I view so I guess some people will say Gemini is like the early education, like your high school days, and Virgo is early college or something. I kind of think of it too as like Gemini. I guess I see Gemini as like your high school years, your high school student years, where you're taking 8 classes in subjects that you didn't necessarily pick, and you're learning a little bit about each one. And then Virgo is like, I've picked my major and now I'm studying this. And it's a little bit more of that grounded earth of like, I'm sticking with this. I think, too, going in this conversation of Virgo versus Gemini, who are both of our Mercury ruled signs, Virgo, being an earth sign, acts more on like the material plane and like with the real tangible things. And Gemini is more about like the abstract thoughts and the things that are not always right in front of you. Virgo does go a little bit deeper than Gemini will. I would probably say not as deep as a Scorpio, but no one does. Virgo wants to come at things with a little bit more of a critical and like an academic understanding of things, and Gemini again is more of like that surface level of like, oh, jack of all trades is the other big one for Gemini archetype. Jack of all trades. Gemini likes to
Oh,
be like good at a bunch of different things, and Virgo is like, I want to become an expert on this thing.
that makes sense.
Yeah.
Where
Virgo,
does that come from? Like, why? What
jack of
makes
all
that
trades,
difference?
or
No, just like with Virgo being just this like material going deeper, coming at things more critically.
that's an
Why?
Earth.
That's the Earth sign. Okay.
Yeah, Earth, because it's more stable. Earth. So we've talked about this before, like which sign is like the most fixed or the most mutable or whatever.
Mhm.
Virgo is like the least mutable of the mutables because it's an Earth, because the Earth is so slow changing. So Virgo is the least changing of the changey signs.
Okay, so they go like a little bit deeper and want to really like explore because they're not
Yeah,
going to just like change and do a million different things.
yeah,
Okay.
because of that Earth grounding.
Okay. I get that. That makes sense.
Another interesting thing too, because Virgo is the more slow moving between Virgo and Gemini, Virgo is the sign that's going to see the cracks in things because they stick around long enough, whereas Gemini is just like moving on to the next thing. Because Gemini is the masculine expression of Mercury, Gemini is the one who's expressing things and putting things out there, and Virgo, being the feminine expression of Mercury, is taking things in
Mm.
and sitting with them more. So I kind of picture that as like Gemini comes home and talks about everything they just learned that day. And Virgo comes home and just kind of sits there and thinks about all the things that they learned that day. And they don't necessarily talk about it right away, they sit with it for a little bit. So while we're here, I'm going to talk about how Gemini connects a bit to the other mutable signs as well, which we already talked about Virgo. There's also Pisces and Sagittarius. Pisces and Sagittarius being our Jupiter ruled signs, they are the signs that are thinking really big picture and about going back to what I said about Sag already, just thinking about the really big things. Gemini is thinking about the very immediate things that are right here and right now. And then Pisces has more of like that emotional component as well, while Gemini is more of like the intellectual side of big picture versus immediate thoughts kind of thing. And then to compare Gemini to the other air signs, which are Libra and Aquarius, Libra as a cardinal sign wants to get things started and wants kind of the comfort and ease because again it's a Venus ruled sign, so it wants to be comfortable, it wants things to be easy and flowy and harmonic, while Gemini can tolerate a lot of chaos, unlike a Libra. Aquarius is much slower than a Gemini, and that is because it is a fixed sign ruled by Saturn. Gemini is always changing thoughts and actions, and Gemini is a lot more aimless. It doesn't necessarily have like that path or that track that it's following. Aquarius, being Saturn ruled, sticks with its purpose and its path pretty consistently. Gemini is much more open to changing their mind with new information, which we talked about earlier, whereas Aquarius, I would say, spent a lot of time thinking about their opinion and deciding on something, but once they've formed that opinion, it's going to be really hard to change it, even with new information coming forth. I
Okay,
think
that's
there's
fair.
actually, I think, one more thing I want to say too. I didn't know where to fit this in, but Gemini and Mercury are connected to the nervous system and the respiratory system. People are always recommending. I feel like everyone should be taking deep breaths and practicing breathing techniques. But people say it's especially recommended for Gemini. And then being connected to the nervous system and the respiratory system and taking deep breaths will calm your nervous system. It's also kind of a thing with Gemini's that it's very easy to lighten up, I guess, that nervous system, and that can be through excitement or anxiety. So take deep breaths regularly, everyone, and
Should we
especially
take one right
Gemini's.
now?
We can. Everyone, want to take a deep breath with us?
Everyone, breathe in through the nose, hold, and out through the mouth. That was kind of nice.
Heck yeah.
That was nice. And like, shake it out. Okay.
Now, Ember, tell us about the glyph. Gemini's glyph.
Yes. So the glyph for Gemini, are you going to put it on the screen, Jordan?
Yes.
Yay. So it looks like the Roman numeral two, or I also think it looks like Roman columns, with two parallel lines, which I didn't realize this, Jordan, but like all of the air signs kind of had these like parallel line situations going on.
Yeah.
I don't know what
I
that
thought about
means.
that. Yeah. Sure, there's
Um,
something there.
It's, it did. I was thinking about it. It did remind me of like when we talked about the parallel between the inner and outer worlds, like when we were talking about Mercury and it being this like liminal space between the inner and the outer.
Hmm.
So it is like an air thing, I guess, to be able to like move between. So I'm like parallel. They run parallel to each other. That was it. That was all I had. I don't know.
I guess I'm thinking too, like our air, our atmosphere is the thing between the Earth and space.
Oh, so it's like two parallel makes like the space in between.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Okay. I like that. I also thought that when I was looking at it, it looks like a gate. So it's like,
Mm.
it looks like a gate or something. And I was like, is it a gate to like other worlds? Like this like thought connection, like very Hermes vibes. But that was it. That was like, I was like looking at it and I was like, all right, well, like it's like the two, right? That's like the duality piece of it. But I was like, that was it. That was all I thought.
Yeah, and I think too. So okay, there's a couple things to go with the glyph. So with that whole gate thing, it was making me think that like Mercury is the gate between, and some people have said this before, not necessarily the gate, but Mercury is like the gate between the sun and the rest of the planets.
Ooh.
And then also with the Roman numeral 2, I think the whole thing here, I think in numerology, which I'm not an expert on, so I could be wrong, but I think in numerology, so like 1 is like the whole, and 1, I don't know what I'm talking about, but it's like 1 is like all about oneness and being whole and complete, and 2 is when you have become aware of the other. It is not just you, it is you and, it is you plus.
Like the duality and the choice. It's very like two is like when I think of two, it's like balance, choice, like partnership, reflection.
Yeah, and I think it's interesting because again, it's about the other, which Mercury is, like I said, is the reason we get to connect with others. And Gemini is a social air sign that likes to connect and likes to chat. I'm trying to think of a good way to phrase this because I don't want to imply. Oh, can you hear my washer? Okay. I'm gonna keep that in. So I think like the Roman numeral 2 or like just the number 2, I don't want to imply that like we're not whole on our own because of course I think we are, but some people believe there's something bigger, that we are all one together. And I think it's interesting to just kind of sit with the fact of like, then why is there a number 2? Are we not complete? Are we two halves? Are we one? See, this isn't something I'd planned to talk about, so it's like it's coming out a little bit word vomity.
No, I'm interested. Keep
Okay,
going.
cool. So, like, what are we without the other? And I guess it kind of goes into as well, if we are just one whole, then how do we grow? And maybe that can answer the question of why we're not just one. Well, see, I don't know how I want to say this because, like, you can believe that we're all one consciousness, but on the other hand, we are also many other consciousnesses. We won't grow without the other. And so I think Gemini is that connection. It's that curiosity to want to grow because you have just become aware of the other. And now it's like, what else is open to me now that I'm aware that there is something else or that there is someone else?
Ooh, that feels really potent, Jordan.
Good, good. Because I feel like something we had talked about before the episode started when we were just kind of like having our pre-chats was like you were talking about something and you weren't really sure where you were going with it. Oh, it was our dedication before we started, and you kind of started to like what I had just called word vomited, but like it was just kind of like free speech, I guess, like just kind of letting the words flow without stopping yourself, I guess. And I was kind of like, that's what Gemini is about, is just like speaking the words freely without like stopping yourself, without second guessing each word necessarily. So I feel like that is also what just happened there. So I feel like I'll have to reflect on what I just said too.
Yeah, it'll be interesting listening back to this.
Oh my
This is
god, I
like,
know.
it's so interesting to me when like our episodes literally reflect like the thing we're talking about
I
because I
know. That's
feel
so
like that's what's
satisfying,
happening
especially
here.
when it reflects our cards. So I'll show the cards on the screen that I had pulled. We pull oracle cards before each episode, just me and Ember. And I had gotten from my astrology deck Pallas Athena, which I don't work with the asteroids at this point yet, but Athena is all about intellect and thinking, and so that was interesting. And then from the Beltane deck, I pulled Sun God, which at first didn't like strike me with any immediate meaning, but the in the guidebook it talked a lot about this card is about communication, leading with your thoughts, and just being like a strong communicator. So that was
Very like emperor energy too.
oh yeah, yeah,
Like I like how his leg is just like,
out there.
yeah. If you're not watching it on YouTube, go look at it because it's like, he's like, I'm
Strong leg.
hot. Look at that. And then Jordan, I love a good embodiment statement, power statement, whatever it is. What is it for Gemini?
Gemini's is I think, which you might have been able to guess by now.
I think I love that.
Yeah. Very fitting. There's almost kind of like not much else to say because we've already talked so much about how Gemini is all about the thinking and the talking. I think some people have also said I learn with Gemini. I usually go with I
Oh,
think, but
I curious.
I curious.
I curious.
So with Aries, we've had I am, Taurus is I have, Gemini is I think. So again, going back to what I talked about at the beginning, Aries is the creation, it's the birth, it's the start of everything. Taurus is the tilling of the field, it is the maintaining of the farm, keeping up with everything, making sure everything grows. And Gemini is the well, what else is out there? What's beyond my farm? What haven't I seen yet? Why haven't I left yet? Like just questioning everything.
Ugh, that's how I feel right now.
Questioning everything.
Yeah.
So Ember, I know before each episode you really like to think and ponder a bit
I
on
think.
yeah, you think. And ponder a bit about on how to magically connect with these signs. So how can we use Gemini in our rituals? How can we connect with it on a magical level?
I could not think of anything else besides communicating with spirits and deity. And I know that's like not for everyone, but it does feel so potent for a Gemini because we are just constantly, as a Gemini, thinking and communicating with ourselves and others. So, like, why not bring the spiritual side into it? And so, I think having that communication with spirit, with and like if deities specifically aren't your thing, so like you don't want to go pray to Hermes, that's cool because I think Geminis can also work a lot with animism. So it could be working with like nature spirits or trees or connecting with plants or animals or your favorite statue and just like talking and having that communication, I think a Gemini would get a lot from that. It wouldn't just be like a one-way conversation. And I think Geminis are just so good at magic because magic is a lot about asking questions and poking deeper and understanding that there's multitudes of layers that comes with magic. And so that's just so natural to Gemini.
I'm thinking too, journaling would be a great one if you're not into specifically commuting with deity, but also something I've been doing not that recently. It's actually been like 8 or 9 months of doing this, but I've been like talking with like my past self and having conversations with my future self. So that could be another one. Or just like communicating with higher self as some people see it, or really like there's any way you could spin this for sure.
Yeah, just communicating with something other. Like I think something outside of like the norm of human to human interaction. I
Hmm.
think that would be pretty freaking magical for a Gemini. And so, speaking of journaling, I think the tools that we could associate with Gemini. So, there's like the obvious air ones, right? So, depending on your magical tradition, that could be the Athame or swords in the tarot, right, are associated with air. But in many traditions, including mine and Jordan's, air is associated with the wand. Like think like a little flick of the flick, and you know, and so that could be very Gemini, but also writing and using a pen, or I also put quill because I feel like there's something about like working with a quill specifically, uh, which is like very magic-y
Well, it's also
Gemini.
like a feather, like a bird.
Yes,
Air, yeah.
absolutely. Yeah, yeah, the feather associated with air. That was so where I was going with that. Um, sorry, I didn't say it clearly. Um, so yeah, so like the feather associated with the bird. I think those would be really cool. Did you have anything else, Jordan?
For tools, let me. So I have like a Mercury altar. You can't really see it. If you see that yellow candle, that's where it is. So on this is not the same thing as Gemini. While we're here, I have a couple crystals on there. I'm actually gonna grab it because it's really pretty. I have this citrine. This is one of my favorite ones.
That is really pretty.
I know. I think it's a labradorite, and I have a pen. I also have a quarter on there, and I have, you can see it, a flute. So I guess like a flute would be another one because again, Gemini is about the breath. Yeah.
I would put music in my brain with more Libra, but yeah, why not?
It could
Um,
definitely fit in several places.
I know, yeah, 100%. And the other thing that I was thinking is like any form of spell writing. So whether it's like sigil work or any form of communication that's like pen to paper writing,
That
like
actually feels
writing out
very
spells.
Virgo to me too. Not that it's not Gemini. It just that also feels very like I'm picturing. I guess when you said that, I pictured in my head. So I have a vision of what I see Virgo as, which is like your typical dark academia vibe, where I picture like a student at Oxford writing with a quill and parchment at a rainy window. And I was just because I guess too Gemini is like the experiment. Like Gemini is trying new things, and I'm picturing like Virgo is writing it down. Virgo is
That's so interesting because in my
crystallizing
brain,
it.
it's like Virgo and sigils feels very like earthy. Like there's something about sigil work in general that feels grounded in earth. But when I was thinking of spell writing, right, I'm picturing that like very quick-witted, like I used to do this little like spell before bed where I took some oils and I like put it on me, right? And I got to it by writing it down, and it was like with each drop, I release self doubt and hate, so mote it be. And so, like that, writing those kinds of things down as a Gemini feels very Gemini to me. So, I can totally see what you're saying about writing being like very academic, but I'm thinking more like writing down these quick little spells and being able to like share them.
Yeah, I think I agree. It totally goes both ways. I don't think like I
Yeah,
do
I do.
associate writing as Gemini. I think it's like I think what I was thinking was the like the etch like what's coming to mind is like the etching in stone, which doesn't feel completely what I'm trying to say, but I guess it's like the permanency that Virgo has a little bit more of. But Gemini is totally also related with writing. Gemini is very righty.
All right, Jordan, have any guesses about the tarot card?
Well, I do know this card, so
What is it, Jordan?
it's the lovers, baby.
The Lover's
Tell us
card.
about the lovers
Yes.
card.
What?
Tell us about the lovers card.
The lover's card. Mwah. Okay. So it's definitely, as like I'm making jokes, it's not really just like a romance card. It is a lot more than that. And honestly, this is like something I'm really excited to explain because I think it can like reframe how you're thinking about Gemini energy because you have the lovers, which is all about harmony and partnership, but like actually that card is about choice. It's like that real gut-wrenching, like who am I? What do I actually want kind of choice and not just like oh like la 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 wishy-washy. And I feel like that's so Gemini because like it's the sign of the twins, right? And so the twins and that space, right? If we take it back to the sigil, I'm getting so excited about this. I don't know why. But like it's taking it back to that like glyph. I said sigil, but I meant glyph, where you have two opposing things, right? And those ideas can both exist and be valid and compelling and correct and still hold up to each other, right? It's like the point of having multiple perspectives and views. And a lot of people see that as a bad thing, but it's not. It's so interesting. And so like in the RWS deck, right? That classic tarot deck, you have two figures with an angel above them, which is actually Raphael, which is a messenger of air and healing, and Mercury ruling Gemini, right? Like that's not a coincidence. We have like the angel of air looking over. I don't actually think Raphael, I put this in my notes, but I don't think Raphael is actually like the messenger angel. That's Gabriel. Raphael does represent wholeness and healing. And it's interesting because this is kind of bringing back to that wholeness
It is,
conversation you
yeah.
were just having, Jordan, about bringing these two aspects together of a whole. And that this energy can really be like a standing of the crossroads of like, do I pick a side and abandon the other one? Or do I integrate them and make a conscious decision to like truly understand and go with what feels true to me in the moment? So it's like, I don't know. It's like that I can't decide energy. Like, is that going to be what you're embracing? Or is it going to be like, all right, I'm going to actually choose, or I'm ready to like integrate and make this feel whole and put these together? Because I think Gemini can be both those things.
What really struck me here was something that I had thought about towards the beginning, but I didn't say at the time. You had said, this was towards the beginning of our episode, you had said like a Gemini, or you might have been talking about you or Gemini, I don't remember. But no, I think you're talking about you as your Gemini placements. But you are the type of person who will think one thing and you'll say like I think blah blah blah, or I believe blah blah blah, or I know blah blah blah, and then you get new information and you're very quick to be like, now I think blah blah blah, now I know blah blah blah. I was thinking about that in that moment because this is not something I had thought about before, but I guess Gemini is quick to like claim something like that, I guess. Like, whereas I kind of sit in this like, I don't know what I think, I don't know what I believe, blah 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 blah. I think Gemini is more, even though it's mutable and changeable, I do think Gemini is quicker to be like, I think this, even though tomorrow they might say something else. They're quick to exactly what you just said, like go with what they feel in that moment.
Do you know how many people I know that that pisses off so much?
No.
Like, there's so many people that get so frustrated with me that like again, this is more people that I care about or I'm really close with, because this isn't true about me when I'm in like just a superficial setting. But like there's so many times where I will be like that. Like someone will be going at me and I'll be like going hard and I'll be like, no, but like this, and this. And they'll be like, no, but like I actually saw this. And then I'm like, oh, okay. And they're just like, are you serious right now? Like, why do you have to fight me on everything? And I'm like, I'm not fighting you. I'm just talking about it. And it makes people really upset.
Interesting. No, like that isn't what I pictured you were about to talk about because I don't see why that would be that upsetting. But you do a lot, which I like this about you. But you are not quick, but like just in our conversations, like I'll say something, and you'll be like, yeah, I guess so.
I love our little like, I feel like this has been interesting comparing like with each other too.
I know. I was hoping, yeah, that we were gonna get a lot of that, and like as we're talking about this too, I'm of course in the back of my head like analyzing our charts because I think a lot of the differences too that we have is that I have really strong Taurus placements and I'm a Scorpio rising, so I have a lot more fixed than you do. And so while I do still have really prominent Gemini placements, I still have a lot of fixed energy in my chart. And so it's interesting to see how this manifests differently in us. And it'll be interesting too when we talk about Cancer, because I think you have said you identify a lot with Cancer, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I don't necessarily very immediately see you very Cancer. I see you way more Libra and Gemini. And I don't know if that's maybe how you show up to your friends. I don't know if that's how you are showing up now, kind of thing. But I'm interested in our next episode, in our next deep dive when we talk about Cancer, to learn more about what is so Cancer about you as well.
Me too, because I know I said that and I was like, I'm interested to learn more about me. And like we've said, this isn't a podcast about Ember, but maybe it is.
The Astro Study Room with Ember Faye, starring Ember Faye.
And Jordan telling her about herself. No, I'm interested too, though, because the more we talk about things and the more I've done this podcast with you, I agree with you that I feel more air energy, and air is the dominant element in my chart for sure. But I think there is this part of me that's very nurturing and very caring that I show up for my friends and my chosen family in that way. And I think that's where the Cancer will come out.
That is true. And I think we've talked about this before, you and I don't remember if we've talked about this on the podcast, but like I've talked before about like, what is an empath and like I don't think I am an empath, but I feel like, especially in like the spiritual community, I feel like so many people identify as empaths, and so I have like a little, like, it's not that strong, but I had a little bit of like a, where do I belong if I'm like the one who's not an empath? But you being a Cancer Sun and Mercury ruled by the moon, there, your sun is ruled by the moon. Like you do invite very like emotional conversation, and like I guess like as me who is a strong Scorpio person, you pull out a lot more of me than like other people do, and I think that's an empath trait. And I'm not like,
Oh.
I'm glad this is giving you the warm and fuzzies, but like I'm not even saying this to compliment you. Just like I think that's that's a Cancer part of you is natural empath. I think.
I'm excited. Yeah, you're right. I'm excited to talk about this. Any sun. I mean, I'm excited about, I've loved these deep dives so much. And I think Jordan, for you, like being a knowledge seeker is like
Mhm.
such, that's like the word that comes to my mind. You are
Yeah.
such a knowledge seeker, and I love it so much. Like I love when you're
Yeah.
sharing things that you're passionate about or learn about. This is why we're such a good pairing for this podcast,
I know.
okay?
I
You're
know the
so lucky as
Gemini,
a
the
listener to be
podcasting, the
here.
pair, and it's interesting because we, what anniversary did we just have? Was that like our first? Was that when we recorded the trailer?
Yeah, that was our
Okay.
first time recording together, the
So
trail.
we've now been recording for a year, not a year of episodes yet, but we had just a year ago recorded our trailer.
Just a few oh
Crazy.
yeah, yeah, a year ago recorded our trailer. Yes. Oh, our listeners, aren't you so lucky to have such two loving, caring, smart people? We love you. Okay, Jordan, are you ready for the game I have for you?
I am.
I thought this one was going to be kind of hard, but it's a
Oh,
what
okay.
would Gemini do?
I love a challenge.
I had trouble with this, so I'm sorry if the questions suck.
No, I want something that's going to make me think about an answer.
Okay, what would a Gemini do, Jordan, aka you? Someone asked to describe if you're an introvert or an extrovert.
You know what? This is going to be the Gemini answer that I would give is I tell everyone I'm an ambivert and then I tell them what percentage I am of each one. By the way, I'm
Love it.
60% extroverted, 40% introverted.
Okay. You're at a party and you don't know anyone.
Gemini is definitely the one who would, like a strong Gemini is definitely going up, introducing themselves to everyone. I would say too, a little bit of like that Buddy the Elf energy of like, hi, I'm Buddy the Elf. What's your favorite color?
I literally, so man, the more we talk about this, I'm like, I'm the one at the meetings at work when it's like really awkward at the beginning and everyone's like, oh, so should we do introduce ourselves? And I'm like, hi, I'm Ember and my favorite color is purple.
I ask everyone their favorite color. I recently asked a coworker what his favorite color was, and then he told me, and he was like, I'm going to guess yours is green because you always wear green. And I was like, I didn't realize I wore green that often. But yes,
Is green your
I
favorite
do.
color?
It is, yeah.
Oh, I don't know what my favorite color is.
That's fair.
I I think green is also my favorite color.
My first favorite color that I remember was green, and then it was purple, and then for this is so funny. So my favorite color was purple for a long time, and then I went like junior year of high school. I was like, I'm starting to really like blue, but I've like dedicated my life to purple, and everything I have is purple. And so when I went to college, I didn't want to like come out to my family as someone whose
Such
favorite color
fixed energy. Such fixed
it
energy.
is.
I can't even change my color that I like.
And I didn't want to like come out to my family with like my favorite color isn't purple anymore. So I didn't tell them. I just went to college and bought all blue stuff, and that was like my coming out to them was like, I guess blue's my favorite now. I can't wait for my mom to message us about this. And now it's green, mom. My favorite color is now green.
Hi, Jordan's mom. That's hilarious. In high school, I would be like, my favorite color is black and pink together.
Brendan says his is red and black.
It's also good. Okay. Gemini could pick anywhere in the world to travel to.
Oh, Rome is coming to mind. Maybe that's because of the the columns. But I'm gonna go with that. Cause no, maybe that's more Sagittarius. That was my initial answer, so I'm gonna somewhat stick with that. But I'm also gonna say Gemini is a road tripper, and the U.S. happens to be a great place to road trip. So I'm gonna say coast to coast in the U.S. is a Gemini travel,
I love that.
which
Okay.
is also like parallel lines, like coast to coast.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, yes. You have to pick one person to text for the rest of your life.
I don't think a Gemini could pick. Like
I
I'm
know
thinking like my partner, but no, I shouldn't. I shouldn't pick my partner because I could just see him every day.
that's exactly what I was thinking. I was like, I wouldn't pick my partner because I could see them and talk to them in person. So I'd have to pick like the funniest, wittiest person I know.
Who's gonna make me laugh?
Exactly.
I
I
think a
would
Gemini
do.
wouldn't be able to pick. That's my answer, though.
All right, that's fair. Okay, I have two more. You're halfway through a good book, but someone recommends an even better book that you're excited to read about.
I think a Gemini DNFs. I think actually a Gemini maybe has trouble finishing books.
What is, you said a Gemini what?
DNFs does not finish. What?
I've never heard that
You've never
before.
heard that?
DNF. I'm on the, you're like on the dating apps and you're like, are you a DNFer?
For the record, I am not, although I very much support DNFers. We need more DNFers.
I'm a little bit of a DNFer.
You should be. People should DNF.
So a Gemini would DNF or not?
I think so. A Gemini would like either purposefully DNF for the book or just be one of those people that like is just like, I'm moving on, I don't care anymore, and then just like forgets to come back.
Not like read multiple books at the same time because that's what I do.
Sure. That's definitely an answer. As long anything that gets the person to that book they just got recommended.
I literally wrote this with me in mind. I was like, what would I do? I would read all the books at the same time.
Yeah.
Okay, my last one is oh, you're speaking to somebody because this also happens to me. Not in these exact words, but when you're speaking to someone and they interrupt you and they're like, "Can you just like be consistent and just like stay focused?"
What would a Gemini do?
Cry. No.
I feel like a Gemini would be like, sure, but then not. Like not
Yeah.
not be more focused. Like I think just continue doing what they were doing.
Fair. Love it. That's it. That's my game.
That was fun. I'm glad to be on the other side of a what would a Gemini do.
Whether you're just beginning your journey with astrology and starting to utilize it as a tool in your craft, or just curious about the universe or spirituality, we are just so happy you are here to join us.
Yes, and if you have any comments or questions, we love hearing from you, and we are loving this process of building a community of astrology students, and everything we do and have and offer is linked in the show notes.
We hope you enjoyed this episode as much as we did. Next time, I will unfortunately not be here
Wah,
because
wah.
womp womp, I will be paddling along in Greece, which I'm so excited about, but I will miss you all. However, Jordan has a very special guest joining her.
Yeah, we are going to be interviewing one of our coven sisters who was raised in a fundamentalist Christian family, and we're going to talk about her journey with spirituality, and of course, we will be connecting it to her chart as well. This podcast is my practice of asking big questions, uncovering the hidden truths, and creating an accessible space for others to do the same.
And I'm so grateful to be learning alongside Jordan and all of you, sharing our resources and diving into what it means to connect with the cosmos. Jordan's reminding me to get my candle because I always forget. Thank you so much for being part of this, and we'll see you back in the study room every other Tuesday.